This podcast is sponsored by Barrage Coffee. It's veteran owned and operated by Kyle Early. Can't thank him enough for his support. My next guest is a 29-year U.S. Army Special Operations combat veteran, also a Special Operations Canine handler, and the owner of WAR HOGG Tactical, and has a podcast, On the Rage podcast, Richard Hogg. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it, buddy, and thank you for your service, pal.
You as well. For the listeners out there that watch the show, kind of give me a background of where you grew up, what intrigued you to join the military, and why you went to the special operations side of it.
Yeah, so I grew up in New Hampshire, and military was something I always wanted to do. So I came from a military family. My grandfather was World War II. My dad was a Vietnam Marine Corps vet. And I always knew that was something I wanted to do. So especially with the Special Forces side. Now, when you paint things kind of in history and understand, people think this new 18 X-ray program or the SF Baby program is something new. Au contraire, it's not. So when I was initially going to join back in the 80s, when I was talking to the recruiter, the SF Baby program was still there. What wound up happening was in 1987, SF turns into a branch. They got rid of the SF Baby program. And then at that point, I couldn't go straight into the SF Baby program. So that's fine. Recruiter says, hey, we can give you 11 X-ray with a airborne contract. Of course, no bonus back then. Roger that. Sounds good. Go jump out of planes. Do one station unit training at Fort Benning, and then roll up to the 82nd Airborne, 1st Battalion, 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment, and start the career off there. So I can either expound more or however you want to go on that one, brother. But that's kind of a quick rundown. The one thing I will say, when you're looking at least for my history and a lot of other guys within the special operations community, wrestling played a big part, I believe, to our mindset and how we were successful during our career. So you got to think about it. I wrestled a little bit before high school, but when you get to high school, for lack of better terms, you go into the big leagues, right? Mm-hmm. So you get there day one, and man, coach ain't teaching us nothing. He's just straight conditioning, and does that for like 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm personally thinking, hey man, he's trying to kill us. Well, whenever he got his magic number, then we started, learning moves and going from there. But it was that showing up every day, just getting conditioned and going, am I staying or am I going? And I think that had a lot to do. And a lot of other guys I've talked to have said that as well. So I got to add that wrestling portion in there. I believe was a huge part of my success down the road, unbeknownst, when you're a high school kid. So.
Yeah, especially during the training, all the running, all the stuff. You think that played a huge role. And when you got into basic training, that because I'll be honest with you, I played football, and I thought I was in great shape until I went on my first whatever how many mile runs it was at Benning, and I realized how much I wasn't in shape. So you think that played a huge role in that?
Yeah. Not so much for the basic part, because basic's basic, right? They're indoctrinating you how to become a civilian into a soldier, but mainly like when you start looking at things like SFAS, so Special Force Assessment and Selection, where you're out there with these guys and you're almost feeding off of the dudes that are quitting, right? And you're going, not me. So it's just, yeah, you know what? You may be tired, you may be dehydrated, you may be whatever, but I'm going to keep going. That's the kind of mindset that helped push you, at least in my opinion, to want to keep going, right? When am I going to quit? Up over the next hill, around the next bend. It's, it's always just pushing yourself and go further. So
speaking of selection, what was the hardest part and why?
So the SFAS of the 90s isn't what it is today. And I think the hardest part was just the physical events they had you do. So back then, it wasn't like they set you up for success to go, all right, hey, everyone from 5'6" to 5'7", you're going to be on the same team. So you get a team of a bunch of different dudes. So now you got to think when you're starting to carry these different apparatuses, and how do you fix your team where, hey, the tall guys are one crew, the short guys are another one, so that you're balancing the weight as best as you can. Here's what you got to understand. When I left SFAS, my rucksack was torn from the top down from so much weight being just rested on the back of that thing. So, and trust me, we screwed it up to start because we didn't sit there and go, oh yeah, You get some old boy that's 6 something, cool. Well, he's acting as a pivot as this guy 5 nothing is eating all this weight of whatever you're carrying. So you quickly go, all right, let's stop, you know, figure stuff out. And then how are you doing um, your exchange of people on the move? So yeah, there's a little bit where there's some pain in there, but um, it was just there was always something going on. What was the hardest thing? There were so many cumulative things in there. It was just it's basically gut check, get through it, and each event, each little segment has its own challenges. So some are individual, some are as a team. So I can't say is there one thing that stuck out? It all stuck out. It was just a suck fest. So
What about sleep deprivation? Was that anything hard for you?
it wasn't. I don't remember the sleep depth as bad there as like I do in Ranger School. So Ranger School, you're just a zombie. I don't remember, and I know they sleep depth us. I think it was like 4 hours a night or something. But the sleep depth more came in at Ranger School, where you just couldn't, especially when you're sitting there patrol based activities and you can't stay awake. You're just falling asleep whenever I don't remember that at SFAS.
Yeah. Did you have some pancakes in Ranger School?
Oh yeah, the old blueberry pancakes. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, man. They are so good when you're up there, but if you ever go back when you're not starving, they're not that good.
Yeah, that's what my buddy says. He went to
Oh, they're the best. They're the best thing ever when you're a student. You look forward to because I remember my ranger buddy was actually sick, couldn't eat, or something was up with his stomach. Right? He's got blueberry pancakes sitting there. You gonna eat those? I'll eat them. So it's like, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yep.
So I like to ask this question a lot. You don't have to go into the details of deflating people or whatever. How many deployments did you go on, and what was some of the missions that you guys did? If you can talk about it, if not, I understand. And
Yeah. No. So no. Yeah. So here's the thing: people look at deployments all different, right? So to me, I look at my deployments. I got 13 combat deployments to both Iraq and Afghanistan. And what were those? What were those deployments consisting of? Hunting high value targets. That's what we did. We prosecuted high value targets. So that's the easiest way. Whether they were however they fit within whoever looking to target, whether they were foreign fighter facilitators, financiers, media guys, actual leadership positions. If they were those top dogs, that's what we were going after.
Yeah. What was one of the most scariest situations you've been in, whether it be deployed, training, that you encountered, and why was it the scariest for you?
So here's the thing, it's not so much the combat side because you've got guys with you. Had a couple dramas, if you want to say military free falling, which becomes interesting because it's gravity, right? And you really can't fix that one, or you don't have your buddies there to bail you out. So yeah, we've had some interesting, MFF operations that, I don't want to say scared such a thing. It's like, man, things aren't going quite well, and we need to fix some things for our survivability. Because if you think about it, basically committing suicide for about a minute until you pull your chute there. Sometimes you're doing halo stuff or hey-ho stuff, which you're bailing out of the aircraft and then pulling, shortly thereafter. And trust me, you can have dramas there. So that's probably the most, that can be when it goes right, it's right. Sometimes when things go wrong, yeah, it can go wrong in a bad way.
Yeah, for somebody that's never static jumped or halo jumped, in a situation that something does go wrong, what's your procedures?
Yeah, you're going through your emergency procedures, whether it's static line or free fall. So you're just working through those, but it's that pucker factor of, hey, my initial things aren't going right. Now I'm sitting there going, okay, cool. I got to whip out my reserve. If something goes bad with that, I got nothing at that point. It's like I've only got one spare. Yeah, I've only got one spare. And when you chuck it out there, all right, we got to just make sure we're cautious with everything we're doing with that one and just make sure that's working the way you want. So, yeah.
You ever in a static line, you ever have a cigarette roll, they call it?
I haven't. Pretty much, I don't remember any malfunctions um, with static line stuff. You know, yeah, they brief it. I think they call it a streamer. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, hey, your chute doesn't fully deploy for whatever reason. But no, never had any dramas. Static line. The biggest thing with static line is just I'll just dub it the crash landings. You know, that was yeah. You
Oh,
really can't. You know, at least the T10s that I was jumping back in the day. It's not like your MFF shoot where you can sit there and land softly for the most part. Sometimes you screw stuff up and have a hard landing even with MFF. But um, man, that T10 you're kind of at the whim, so you're just going wherever it takes you. And yeah, sometimes 80 seconds sits there and goes, hey, they don't want to pay the fuel bill to the Air Force, so man, winds might be hot. You're good. Jump them, get them out. So yeah, have some pretty interesting landings on that one.
oh, I bet. Um, no, I'm a huge dog lover. I'm a lot of the audience is, and you're a canine trainer and handler. You were in the military.
Hmm.
Can you tell us about a time in Afghanistan or Iraq you guys did a mission, and a lot of people ask me like, what did the dogs do over there? Well, they're sniffing out bombs. They're doing all kinds of stuff. If you can go into more detail of how the
Yeah.
dog really act over there.
So here's the thing: what people fail to realize with the canines, they are, in my opinion, the biggest combat multiplier on the battlefield. So I have watched these dogs. You know, you've got technology telling you one thing, the dog's telling you something else, and you know what? The dog's right. So that's the part that I think a lot of people don't really understand is that full capability of the canine. The number of guys that are here today because of those dogs, only God knows that one, man. I mean, um, because again, we've been in situations where either the dogs have alerted on explosives, they've found people that were, you know, hiding, basically got the they've got the jump on you because they're on their terrain just waiting. The only thing they didn't have was the technology, i.e., night vision, to actually see where you guys are at, and that was our biggest advantage there. So, um, yeah, I mean, the dogs. It doesn't matter whether they're special operations dogs, conventional dogs, bomb sniffing dogs. They are all incredible. And again, the things they have done on the battlefield is absolutely amazing. And I think that's probably the biggest thing people don't understand is they are, in my opinion, the biggest combat multiplier on the battlefield for guys. And when you look at, you know, the military working dog, there's a whole history that goes into that. So a lot of people don't even understand how we got to where we're at today. So if you rewind the tapes and you look back at World War II, we didn't have a canine program in place. So basically, the military reached out to civilians. People gave up their pets, for lack of better terms. They put them through, you know, the War Dog program and got them ready. Um, Mainly more focused over in the Pacific. You know, again, using their nose to sit there and pick up the Japanese over there. But
Mm-hmm.
again, once World War II is over, the program kind of goes away. I think out of the thousands of dogs they took, only a couple hundred were able to go back to their handlers or to their owners. You know, a little bit of use in Korea, but then you kind of see a respike back in Vietnam. Now, I'm going to paint a picture here. So, what you have to understand up to this point, the military looks at these dogs as equipment. They're not really looked at as U.S. service members, and this will become important down the road. They're just equipment. So, when we decide to leave Vietnam, we end up leaving over 4,000 canines just right there in country because, again, they were looked at as excess equipment. Fast forward to 2000, Congress passes a law because at that point too, they would euthanize military working dogs when they were done their service, right? Okay, hey bud, you've done your service. Here's the blue juice. See you later.
Terrible.
Yeah, well, that got changed in 2000. So Congress passes a law. They're going to no longer going to euthanize military working dogs. And again, they can either go for adoption. 9 times out of 10, usually the handler has a choice in getting, you know, that dog. So in my case, with my last work dog, Duco, I was able to retire him. Basically, we retired together, and I was able to bring him home, you know, for his retirement. So it
Oh,
just
wow.
it kind of brings things full circle to understand. At one point, we kind of looked at these guys as they were, I call it trash for lack of better terms. Hey man, thanks for your service. Here's the blue juice. See you later. Or in Vietnam, hey, we don't have space for you. You're staying here. But nowadays, these guys are looked at, in my opinion, as U.S. service members. They wear the stars and stripes in their vest. They're manifested on our aircraft. And oh, by the way, if they get injured, U.S. surgeons are working on them. Not vets, not looking for some vet, whatever. Nope. They're flying at the cash and surgeons are working on them because trauma is trauma. It doesn't matter whether you got 2 legs, 4 legs. Trauma is trauma. Stop the bleed, get them patched up. And yeah, so it's definitely come full circle. And in my opinion, the canines in the GWAT have saved it. I'm going to say thousands, if not more, thousands of lives.
I would agree.
And we'll never fully know because you can't put, that dog that finds that roadside bomb, right? Cool. How many guys could have been killed or injured on that one? Who knows? In my case, the dog that finds the guy, laying in wait. How many of us wouldn't be here because he would have, shot us? The dog that bites the body bomber and versus him being pointed towards the guys. Now he's knocked over backwards and the blast goes up versus towards the guys. So many scenarios you can look at. And people got to understand they're not invincible as well. We've lost a lot of dogs in GWAT. But again, when you're sitting there looking at it, I would much rather have lost my dog than to lose one of my buddies, during that time. So yeah, they are, in my opinion, the biggest combat multiplier on the battlefield.
No, you hit on some stuff that I didn't even know about, which is really cool. I got one last question about your military career, and we'll switch over to you own a tactical company. And what is the best school you attended while you were in service, and why?
Wow, the best school. There's a bunch, and they're all different. And I'll just kind of hit some high points. Ranger School, you got to think, by far the best leadership course the Army has. It will test you at the worst type conditions, doesn't matter, environmental, you psychological, from, lack of sleep, lack of food, and really just kind of pushing you in that aspect. So definitely I'm giving Ranger School kind of the top, leadership course. Seer School, been to numerous different ones. But really the one out at Camp McCall that's run by by JFK SWCC, which is the Special Warfare Center, by far, I mean, is fantastic. So, not only are you getting, your skills for survival aspect, which then in turn they put you out on a survival exercise, then you're actually putting your, if you want to say POW skills to test, so that's a fantastic school that a lot of people will rave about. Been to a bunch of different, shooting courses, stuff like that. Those are always good. Military free fall. There's no better way if you want to slide in undetected, although it does have some dramas, and the fun can be taken away when you're sitting there bailing out at 20 some odd thousand feet. And yeah, it's got to deal with that cold, especially if you're doing a hey-ho. But yeah, I mean, there's so many, they've all got their own little wickets to benefits there. So to sit there and go, hey, which one's the best? There's a bunch of them. Q course is good because you're going to do unconventional warfare, dealing with your your G's during Robin Sage. So everything's, you'd have to break it down into little, I think, subcategories, at least for Rick, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. For the listeners, what is War Hogg Tactical, and why did you choose to start it up when you got out of service, or did you already have it kind of going while you were?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'll give you first what is War Hogg Tactical, and then we're going to get into the history behind it, because I think this is the key part. So War Hogg Tactical, we provide mobile firearms, tactical, and canine training to law-abiding citizens, military, and law enforcement agencies. We also consult for both the defense and firearms industry. We conduct product field testing, and then we'll have a canine product line launching here shortly. Now, you hit the key thing on the head, and I think this is important for guys that are active, and even those that are getting ready to get out, or even veterans, right? You, just like everybody else, think that War Hogg Tactical was what I started when I got out. Yes. However, the history behind War Hogg Tactical is this. In the late 90s, prior to 9/11 kicking off, I was actually part of the Special Forces Advanced Urban Combat course, where I was an instructor at 7 Special Forces Group. Fast forward, 9/11 happens. 5th group was the first group to go to Afghanistan. 7th group went shortly after them. I believe personally they went because what we had done was, I think within 18 months, we'd trained the entire group in the SFAO program. We went on to what we dubbed SFAO 2, which was then SF company operations. So how to get an SF company to work together. I personally believe that's what drove 7th Group to go over there because, again, at that point, language didn't matter. They were using terps. In 2002, when those first group of guys from 7th Group came back and said, hey, man, that stuff you taught me saved my life, that was the hook for WAR HOGG Tactical. That's when I knew at that point I was going to run a training company when I got out. Obviously, fast forward, my 13 combat deployments later, build my experience there. So we're not teaching from theory. So if you got to think, when I was teaching at the Advanced Urban Combat Committee, I was teaching theory. Yes, I'd been to Desert Storm. There, you had some slight combat, but not at the extent of the GWAT and the duration there. So, WAR HOGG Tactical is teaching from experience, not theory. And that's the key takeaway. So what I teach out on the range is the same thing that brought those guys from, 7th Group home, brought the same thing that brought me home during my engagements. So that's the key part there. But that's one key point that I got to bring out, because people always go, well, you got out your 29-year special, U.S. Army Special Operations, you're going to go right into the training world. Nope. This is what I love to do. This is my passion. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy teaching, people those firearm skills, tactical skills, whatever we're doing. And it's just not a whim. Now, for, the veteran entrepreneur that's getting ready to get out there, I'm going to say this. Think about your name. So WAR HOGG Tactical was not my original business name. I won't get into what it was, but we'll just say a friend of mine said, hey, man, that thing stinks. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? It's a great name. He's like, where's your name in it? And I'm like, excuse me? So when you start thinking about it, if you look at, and again, I'm a big history buff, so this is important. If you look at early on, people's business names were their names. So if you look at Wise Colt, Why Smith & Wesson, Smith & Wesson. Fast forward, Wise Glock, Glock, Daniel Defense. Geissley. You can go on and on at these different names. And it's like, gotcha. So how do we plug HOGG in? Hey, came up with the WAR HOGG Tactical, and tactical is just kind of the, the fill. So like when you look at the website, again, want to make it easy for people, just warhog.com. But yeah, WAR HOGG Tactical kind of covers the space that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
No, it's good.
And the thing is, here's the thing, Alan, it's been a steep learning curve. And I think it's important for, the guys getting out, whether you're a first responder, whether you're a veteran, whether you're whatever. Here's the thing. There's no magical book out there that lays out how to be an entrepreneur. You've got to do a bunch of research. And I recommend go try to find a mentor, because let's think about it. I got out thinking, okay, cool. I'm at the 85% solution, right? That's for things from the truth, because I didn't have any social. Number one, I didn't grow up in that era. I didn't want it, didn't need it. So now I go to my first SHOT Show once I get out, and all my industry partners are going, hey man, can't find you on social. Where you at? Oh yeah, we're building it. So now I got to start from scratch. So now you're asking the kids, hey man, what's this Instagram and Facebook and YouTube stuff? And really, my mentors and my kids trying to get this stuff set up. Then you look at, all right, well, cool. Now you need a website. All right. So go to a website. First website platform was not e-commerce conducive. Didn't help. Okay. All right, cool. So we swapped over, and then that one decides to go belly up, because I'm looking for gun friendly web providers, because I've had some other people in the industry that have gone with companies that have just canned them, that have just shut their stuff down. It's like, I'm paying you for a service. They're like, yep, we don't like guns. Boom, you're out. To finally where we're at, today. So, but again, how much time do you waste along the way? And then, oh, by the way, you're trying to educate yourself. Hey, what's the hashtags? What's keywords? What's this? Little late to the game, getting people on my newsletter. It's just all this stuff that we could have been, in my opinion, so much further ahead. I could have been building so much more during that transitional process when I was getting out. But again, I got out thinking, all right, I'm good. Man, I first and foremost would tell everyone I recommend being an entrepreneur, because you're going to sit there and go, well, what do I know about running a business? Man, if you serve, you know everything. You just don't know the key wickets to put where. You know how to do leadership. You know how to deal with people. You know how to market. You know how to do all that stuff. You just need the finite tools to how do you get that out there, and how do you get your product out there. But yeah, I did the boosted business class that the military offers, and pretty much the only thing I took away from that was, okay, I need or how to go to SBA to get a loan. Did they say anything about, hey man, a logo? Nope. They say anything about digital marketing? Nope. So all these missed marks, e-commerce, and any of that stuff, it was all just missed. So now you're sitting there trying to figure that stuff out, and I'm trying to reach out to, the local SBA here, going, hey man, you got anybody that's an expert on SEO or search engine optimization? Because again, what does Rick know about that? Nothing. Well, I didn't before. You start learning more now. But in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, cool. If you go to the magic Google machine, type in Warthog, and I pop up, man, that's got to be it. Well, that's so far from the truth. Yeah, that's cool. You want people to do that. But now if they go type in, firearms training or whatever, where am I at in that little buzzword search? So
Mhm.
things totally take a different spin. And then, you're doing blog stuff, and, we've got our own podcast, because my co-host Mark, we served together in the 82nd, you know, 30 plus years ago, whatever it's been. And, still buddies today. And he hit me up last year with all the craziness. Hey man, what do you think about doing a podcast, to keep the businesses going, get the word out there? It's like, sure. Sounds like a plan, and he kind of figured everything out. But again, we were kind of talking about this beforehand. Again, we had to change what platforms we were using because our first one wasn't working out well for us. We weren't getting the reach like we needed. So it's just, it's constant learning. And I'm not saying it should be easy success along the way, but man, what if we had gone to, because we're on Podbean now, what if we'd used Podbean originally? Where would the show be at today? So, I mean, we've done extremely well, in my opinion. We're in the top 3% of all podcasts globally and continuing to grow. But man, how much further could we have been had we just started with a platform that wasn't restricting us from the get-go? So
Yeah.
they're all learning points. And I would tell people, and just like we were chatting about with earlier,
Mhm.
man, veterans, reach out to your fellow veterans. Because trust me, guys will help guys out. At least give you some wickets of information. Hey, try it out. But ultimately, it's on you to get it done. Um, but it's a constant, everyday learning, man. Every single day, I'm learning something when it comes to business. So there's no easy way there. But yeah, primarily. And then the last thing I'm gonna say with War Hogg Tactical. So we've had a slight, shift in focus. We're mainly pushing a lot of our law enforcement stuff, because those guys are, basically getting hammered out there. So
Mhm.
we've partnered up with some of our industry partners, and in turn, they're sponsoring the event. So it's to the officers. We dub them free law enforcement training. So the officers aren't paying anything. They just need to get their ammo to come out to the class, and a good hard day of training. And the one thing that I think Warthog Tactical does different than, to the best of my knowledge, anyone else out there, at least as far as my LE stuff goes, and especially for just a very easy 1 day course, we do two major things. One, we add realism to our training. We have all the students bring a t-shirt out, or if we're doing something with the sponsor, hey, typically the sponsor will provide t-shirts for them. We're actually putting physical t-shirts over paper targets. Because if you think about it, last time I checked, and probably with you as well, I never engaged a paper individual. They were always a human being wearing clothes, right?
Yep.
So we tried to add that realism to it by just putting some material on there. And again, I let them shoot it cold without any instructions on purpose. Because typically what you see is, if you look at a shirt and everyone's going center mass, their shots are usually wind up low. Stop about halfway through that iteration, give them a little bit of instruction, and you watch them, readjust their shot placement. It's like, yeah, those are where you need to put your shots in order to stop that threat. And then the other thing we do is we introduce shooting under physical duress. And it's not just, hey, do some running, jumping beforehand. There's numerous iterations where, yes, physical duress, shoot, introduce more physical duress, shoot, introduce more physical duress, shoot. And I've had officers that have been, in shootings reach out, and they were like, hey, man, thank you for that. Because in this one case, it was shot at a vehicle. Next thing you know, the suspect flees. Now they got to flee on foot. Another thing ensues. So it's not just, ramp up the heart rate for that one duration. Nope. What if it goes on and on? And that's the one thing we try to do, is add numerous repetitions of that physical dress in there. Because again, at the end of the day, you may be dog tired, man. You still got to get up there and fight. So
Yeah. What's the craziest thing you've encountered at your range? Someone doing, like, you know, it happens all the time. Somebody, you know, I've had where I went to an indoor range and this lady's pointing her gun the opposite way, trying to ask one of the instructors what, and had cease fire, closed down the range because this moron's doing some dumb stuff. But, you know, you got
yeah.
common sense, you know.
So here's the thing. I do things when I'm running my classes, right? For the most part, I do a War Hogg self eval right from the get go, shot individually. So I get to kind of see where everyone's skill set is at. I can't say I've had any dramas with, you know, flagging or anything with that. Usually pretty good keeping that stuff in check. Finger on the trigger, that's usually one you've got to harp at some people about, because they don't, you know, they don't like to take that finger off once they're done the engagement. You know, the craziest thing, and I say this, it kind of goes to my LEOs and the whole scan and assess thing. And I know I'll stir the pot with this one, but that's fine. You know, these guys get out there, they'll shoot their rounds, and they're sitting there kind of arbitrarily looking over their shoulder for the quote unquote scan and assess. I said, all right, that's cool. I said, well, what's your post shooting procedures? And then it's usually, all right, cool. You're scanning, assessing, but you've got somebody out there with potentially a firearm. That does he have somebody else out there that doesn't have one and goes grab it? You know, what's your post shooting procedures? So to me, it's not so much the crazy antics of the students and what they're doing, because I think we keep that pretty well in check. It's just getting these guys to think, all right, cool, you've just engaged a target. Because we try to change the mentality for these guys. This isn't a flat range. This isn't an admin, you know, space. This is, treat it as the real world. All right. Hopefully your situation where, as you're approaching, kind of seeing the situation go on, if something warrants that you need to look, okay, why wouldn't you do a full 360? You know, well, I've got to keep my pistol pointed up in that range. Well, you can't drop it and turn. You know, so it's just, it's the artificiality that some of these guys add in there. It's like, no, man, that's not reality.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you want to say craziness, I think it's that. I've had officers ask me, you know, especially like with the t-shirt drill, hey, why aren't we doing that? And I said, I'm not your training guy, man. I don't know. Go ask him. So I'm just trying to share some knowledge with you to enhance your skills, that, you know, God forbid you're ever in a shooting, you come out, you know, on the other end. Here's the thing. I hope none of these guys ever do, but you know, I'm already getting notes back from people that they have, and, you know, that stuff's saving their life. It's no different than my guys back in 2000 or 2002 that came back from Afghanistan that first time. Hey, man, that stuff you taught me saved my life. I hope I never get another one of those texts, phone calls, emails. I really don't, because that means somebody was in that, you know, harm's way. Give you the skill set, but hey, man, you've got the skill set that if you need it, you know, you can use it.
Yeah, if there's a listener that's wanting to come to do a class, or you know, come do some tactical training, what can they expect, and where are you located? That way they know where, or is it all on the website?
Yeah, so warhogg.com is your best place to go. You know, for the open enrollment stuff. And again, it's ups and downs, right? So sometimes we got stuff going. Again, we're still going through some ebbs and flows this year. We thought we were kind of clean, but now you're starting to see some people starting to lock things down again. And so that becomes interesting, especially when you're traveling, because you got 50 different states, 50 different rules. But yeah, warhogg.com is where, you know, we kind of post the calendar at. And then guys can always reach out to me via Warthog, you know, shoot me a message, because I will do, you know, private classes as well. So, hey man, you got a group of guys you want to train, you know, up in Raleigh or wherever you guys, it doesn't matter. Cool. Hit me up. We can, you know, coordinate something that way as well. And then obviously, you know, for the LEO stuff, whether agency wants to bring me out direct, you know, I've done that before. Although I am starting to see some of my LEOs run into some ammo issues where the stockpiles they once were sitting on and were getting replenished pretty good. Now they're kind of like, yeah, training's being backed off, and they're pretty much just holding that ammo, you know, for their duty stuff and the qual. So starting to see a slight ebb and flow in that one. But warhogg.com is kind of the way to go. And then, like I said, if you don't see something on there, reach out. Because again, website's great, but again, technology is technology, and you've always got your glitches and dramas and everything else. And then I would say the other last thing for the viewers, listeners, is if you go to warhog.com, sign up for the newsletter. That way, that'll keep you abreast of what's going on. So if I am going to launch a class, typically what I try to do is, especially if it's somewhere, before I put it to the general public, I'll try to let the people on the newsletter know first, hey man, class is opening up, wherever. And then if you guys want to sign up, jump on it. And then I'll put it out, a little bit later for public consumption so that everyone else can jump on.
Do you do concealed carry classes too?
So what I do is the problem is when you start breaking things down. So if I go, let's just use the WAR HOGG pistol class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a red dot pistol class? Is it a concealed carry class? Here's the thing. I don't care what you have. I can accommodate to each one of my students. So I've had students that have been outside the waistband. I've had some people that's concealed carry. I've had some people running iron sights, some people red dots. We can work around it, right? Because we can adjust things for that specific individual. I've tried before to go, hey, we're going to do, a concealed carry class. And then you start getting the notes. Well, hey, I want to show up, but I don't have a concealed carry rig. And then you're like, all right. So then it just became, all right, I'm not going to break it down. You're getting a pistol class, right? So whether it's a 1 day, 2 day, doesn't matter. And again, it doesn't matter whether you've got a concealed carry, irons, red dot, outside the waist, whatever you've got, bring your stuff. We'll accommodate and make it work. The only thing that, even like when I do my low light stuff, and that's, I don't care what you've got, whatever your carry preferences at that point, which most people are usually concealed at that point anyway. But I've got my, LEO guys that show up with their duty belts. It's like, yeah, dude, you're fine just as well. So I just try to keep it very open and versatile where you're not. I just found that by setting parameters, you just kind of, cut your throat a little bit. And then people are asking if they can show up anyway. And you're like, yeah, come on. So it's just, pistol class and just make it easy.
Oh, it makes sense, man. What platform do you carry and why?
So right now I'm running a Archon Type B. And the reason I'm running that, get my year straight. I think we're going on 4+ years. I was part of the whole test and evaluation process with that. So when you look at the Archon, the thing I like about it is it has a super low bore access. They're running what's called the AF speed lock system. So versus a Browning tilt barrel design where that barrel actually has to lock down and then come back up to lock in, it stays in place. So number one, it does two things. It improves my accuracy because the barrel actually locks into the frame, which, oh, by the way, it looks polymer, but the inside frame is actually a full piece of metal in there, full length rails on it versus just a couple small little points. And then reliability, where there is no tilt barrel design in there. The round is basically going straight from the magazine right into the chamber. The texturing they put on there, stuff behind there, the serrations, all that stuff. The gun set up out of the box that you don't have to do anything to it. So there's some pistols you go out there, okay, hey, the first thing you got to do because they've got crappy sights is put a decent sight on there. Then people are messing with triggers or they're doing serrations or, mag wells or whatever the case may be. This thing has it all on there. Great trigger, breaks right at 90. That's the platform that I'm running. That's what I prefer to use.
No, that's awesome. I got a couple more questions for you, and I'll let you go for the day. I know you're a busy man. I started this because there's guys that struggle with PTSD, suicidal thoughts, and if there's a veteran out there that's struggling with one of the two, what's some insight, some encouragement you could give them to kind of get them out of that funk a little bit? Because everybody deals with stuff differently.
Sure. So first and foremost, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to say the signs and symptoms for PTS, and I'm not a big fan of PTS because I think it's too much blanketed for four things, right? But I'll just say this: signs and symptoms for PTS and TBI run parallel. Is it really, PTS or is it TBI? So the thing is, when you look at the signs and symptoms, pretty much the recurring nightmares is the definitive difference with the PTS. I don't like the term PTS because here's the thing. I'll just say, me and I will speak very openly on it. My my mental trauma, my mental scars are not from my actions on the battlefield. I sleep like a baby, right? That does not bother me. My mates that I never got to mourn for till I pretty much retired, and the pain I caused my family, that's my emotional scars or battles. That's my demons, if you want to say, when it comes to all that. So are you one of those guys that's sitting in that point that is survivor's guilt potentially? Is that PTS? I don't think so. I dub it combat grief. That's Rick's term, and I've tried to get people in the psychology world to embrace that, because I think it's a better deal. Because here's the thing: the actions on the battlefield, there's nothing. I look at it this way: it's no different than what I teach my students out on the range, right? Deadly force is deadly force. So those people warranted deadly force. So I'll use the state of North Carolina, for example. Imminent threat of death, great bodily harm, or sexual assault. The state of North Carolina says I can use deadly force to defend myself. Check. It's an unemotional event. That's just Rick's deal. It's not murderous. It's not nothing. It's just, hey man, you wished me or my mates ill intent. You're getting it back, and I've got nothing there. So I don't like, personally for me, the whole PTS deal. I got it. People can be in bad spots. Some people have seen things on the battlefield that bothers them. Yep. And I'm not putting that down at all. But here's what I will say. Is it PTS or is it TBI? Because where they are so parallel. And I would say just make sure that you're getting definitively looked at both ways. I'll tell you straight up, I was inpatient at the VA for 6 weeks trying to get my head straight because my TBI was to the point I was so jacked up. And they wanted to run those parallel lines. Oh, you're hyper vigilant because of the war. Really? I'm hyper vigilant because I'm just situationally aware. So even there, my main concern for going there was to try to get brain rehab and get my neural pathways back straight in my brain. But it was kept pushing me. You got this, you got that. And I was like, yeah, my scars are from my dead mates I never mourned for and for what I did to my family. I said my actions on the battlefield, I sleep like a baby. And I'm not trying to tell guys that if you suffer from things that you've seen on the battlefield that you're any less or no. That I got it. Those are your scars, and that's cool. But here's the thing: figure out how to get help. Because at least for me, I would rather talk to a veteran. And here's why: because we can relate. Here's the thing: we may not have served in the same unit, we have not done whatever. Probably 9 times out of 10, we've been to the same places, we've seen the same things, and we can relate to those situations. And I think veterans can give better advice to other veterans. Here's what I will tell guys: if you are sitting there and if you're sitting there constantly hitting the bottle, why are you hitting the bottle? Or why are you taking the pills? Is it because you got pain? Is it physical pain or is it mental pain? You got to figure out which one definitively that one is, and then fix it. And again, reach out for help. I would say this: if you're sitting there contemplating suicide, I'm going to pull out the old first sergeant knife hand, slap you across the face, whatever, and say, don't be selfish, because that's a selfish move. You're going to sit there and cause more pain to those people that love you. Sit there and stop. And if things are that bad, reach out to somebody, because don't do it. You're not fixing your problem. If anything, what you take the easy way out and you leave everyone else mourning for you. And I've had buddies that have committed suicide, and I'm sitting there scrolling through their text traffic going, where's it at? I'm looking for the note. Where's the little drop? Man, I'm telling you guys, if you are out there and you're thinking about, this world is no longer for me, stop. Don't do it. Remove whatever tools can potentially harm yourself. Go find you some help. Pick up the phone, whether it's the Veterans Crisis Hotline, whether it's Suicide Hotline, call somebody, and get the help that you need. But I would say do not be selfish. That's just Rick's opinion on that. Call your buddy. And then in turn, it's a twofold deal, right? Because we always look at the struggling service member, but are you, as just say a veteran, are you reaching out to those in your circle? You checking in with your buddies? Hey man, you doing all right? And I get it. There's some guys that will hide that stuff, but 9 times out of 10, when you take a step, you take a look back, man, so and so, he's always liquored up. And I get it, guys. Trust me, it's easier because you've got so much physical pain. It's easier to black out to get some sleep. Yeah, but it's not. And I'm here to tell you, and that's why I'm very open as far as, yeah, I was inpatient for 6 weeks trying to get my brain straight because my brain was so freaking rattled. And TBI, I is a cheat for most of us. It's eyes, plural. God knows how many thousands of times my brain's been whacked uh, between munitions overseas, just door chargers in training, uh, crash landings, PLFs, all that stuff. I get it, man. Your brain takes a whack, but here's the beauty: it's recoverable. In my opinion, you can get it fixed. There's ways to get your neural pathways back, and you're going to sit there and I got it. If you're out in the veteran side, where do you go to start to find that help? Yeah, you can try to reach out to the VA. And the thing is, you need to find a speech therapist. And you're going to go, there's nothing wrong with my speech. No, speech therapist will help you with your cog ability. If you're not PTing, PT, because trust me, PT will help improve those neural pathways as well. If you're a right-handed person, something as simple as brushing your teeth with the left. Again, you're adding something new into that sequence to try to get that brain going. Are you reading? Are you doing word search, things to work your brain exercises, all that stuff you can do. The fish oils, all that stuff. There's so many things you guys can do to recoup that stuff to get those neural pathways back. And trust me, I am telling you from a guy that was basically rolling to work when I was still active duty, that was punch drunk. Guys that I've known 10 plus years, and everyone was, hey man, hey buddy, hey pal, because I can't remember people's names. Their names are, where'd they go? Sitting there, you walk outside, you're done for the day. Now I'm pressing the key fob. Where did I park at? Because I don't remember.
Yep.
Guys, trust me, I have been there. Okay. And I'm still there. I still struggle. It's not like my brain's totally fixed. It's not. It's a constant struggle, but you got to figure out, hey, what are your tools to adapt with? So I got it. You got to carry it. I'm not a big phone person when it comes to notes and all this other stuff. I'd rather physically write things down. That's just the way I grew up. But whatever strategy it is for you, sticky notes, notebooks, if your phone shooting you reminders, whatever it is, it can be done and you can recoup from it. So at the end of the day, long story short, I say all that to say, hey, if you're a veteran struggling in crisis, whatever, reach out for help, because trust me, it's all fixable. And trust me, I don't care whether it's physical scars, mental scars, brain scars, I got it all, but I'm here to tell you, with a little bit of direction, a little bit of help, 100%, it can all be fixed. So.
No, that's awesome, man. Last thing I want to hit on is your podcast, how they can find it, what your content is. So,
yeah. So really, I direct everybody, and this kind of goes to all my, entrepreneurs out there. I used to go, well, find us at WAR HOGG Tactical on Instagram and WAR HOGG Tactical on Facebook and YouTube. You know what? Go to warhog.com. That's your one-stop shop. You'll find all our social platforms. You'll find a link to On the Range podcast as well. And really kind of what me and Mark hit it up to be was, we dub it All Things America, right? Now we say that we've had foreign guests on there, but that's all right. But it's really, we try to use our platform in two ways. When we have a guest on, because we'll do both a guest and then just our own shows. When we have a guest on, it's all about the guest. Trying to promote the guests, get their stuff out there, get them to pass their word. And then when it's just us, who knows what we're going to be BSing on. Something else we've started that we've branched into is the War Hogg Words of Wisdom. So this was something that will be part of, that I started before I lost Duco, my retired military working dog. We were kind of doing that, but I never put it out there because, again, part of it was I wanted to build a series and then kind of launch it weekly. I let life get in the way. And then obviously, Duke's cancer came back and ended up losing him on the 5th of July. But we're going to keep that memory going, because I think I've got a couple episodes of those that we're starting to push out there. So that's part of it as well, right? So just Rick's Words of Wisdom. And it's mainly driven off of kind of like overwhelming stuff that people are getting me. So if you look at, the first one was just talking about osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer in dogs. The options we took for Duke, why we did what we did. I had a bunch of people hit me up on what's the best book for tactics. I said, well, it's pretty easy. You know, Ranger Handbook, man. It's out there. You can buy it. Kind of went over a quick little, and of course I had Duke with me the whole time. So he just kind of laying there hanging out. But we went over kind of the new Ranger Handbook, which is a little bit bigger versus the old one, which was smaller and the one I actually had in school. So here's the notes I wrote in there. Here's this, you know, so kind of going into stuff like that. I won't let the cat out of the bag what the next couple are coming out, you know, but we're going to continue that. So that's going to be its own little, you know, segment series, mainly driven off of other people's stuff, you know, what they're asking, driving questions like that. So that's kind of, you know, on the range podcast. And we try to get probably 2 a week out there, usually one guest and then one with us. And then obviously the words of wisdom be plugged in there. So at some point we'll be up to blasting out, you know, 3 different segments on that each week.
Oh, that's awesome, man. You got a lot going on, and
busy, man.
Yeah. I encourage everybody to go to your podcast and watch it and learn. And, you know, if you want some tactical training and stuff, go to his website and sign up for a class.
Yeah, buddy.
Man, I've enjoyed having you on. You know, you got a good story, and hope my listeners enjoyed it. And just hang on for a second, because I'm going to give you my number we talked about before the.
Yeah, buddy.
So,
all right.
Thank you again for coming on. I'm honored to have you on, and you share your story and your business you got going on and your podcast. And, you know, I'm looking forward to watching some of your podcasts as well.
Yeah, buddy. Hey, appreciate you having me on, man.
Yes, sir. Honor.
All right, buddy.